All right, good evening. I would like to call the meeting to order with roll call, noting that all of council and the CAO are present. Do we have any adjustments or additions to the agenda?
Mayor, your session, I'd like to move 8.1 in front of 7.0.
All right. Anybody else? All right, can I get a motion?
I'll move to accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That's that. Acceptance, oh, no, public hearing minutes. No, we've got nothing there. Adoption of the minutes of regular meeting of council, April 9th, 2025. Can I have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Okay, any adjustments or omissions? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Public hearing, April 17th. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to accept the April 17th meeting. Pardon me, public hearing.
Thank you. Any adjustments or omissions there? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, with that, we're moving 8.0 above. So 2024 audited financial statements. Mr. Dirks. And then just a reminder for you, we'll need you to turn your microphone on, please. Just touch it. At the base. There you go.
All right. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and everybody else that's here. Missing the hockey game. It won't be that great anyways, if you're an Oilers fan. Anyways, my name's Phil Dirks. I'm with Metrics Group, Chartered Professional Accountants, and I think you all know me other than, I don't know if I met the new mayor.
Not in this position, but I was at the
Oh,
far end
you
last
look
year.
familiar. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyways, I think everybody knows who I am, so we'll just get on to the proceedings then. Just before I say a few words about the financial statements, I'm just going to say a couple words about auditing in general, so you can have a reminder of what it is and what isn't that we're doing. But just let me say that the audit went well this year, so thanks to Monique and Mitchell, and is it Tara, I think maybe is the other one that's involved with that. But if I missed anybody, forgive me. But thanks to everybody for all their help in getting things rolling and getting us on time this year. So again, the town has hired our firm to do the audit of the financial statements. We did provide you with a audit plan back in the early winter somewhere that described, how we would approach the audit and various exciting matters that are audit related. So we did, complete the audit in accordance with that plan. At the end of the day, our job is to provide an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit. So if you look in your financial statements, there's an auditor's report, and in that report, the first top of the page, there's an opinion paragraph that states the financial statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So if you took the time to read that whole report, the only thing you'd see different than last year is the dates at the top and the bottom. So, we call that a clean opinion. So like I said, the audit went well. As far as the rest of the report goes, it goes on to discuss what our responsibilities are, management's responsibilities. We prepare the financial statements for the town, but that doesn't relieve management of their responsibility for the statements. So they're responsible for, internal control, fair presentation, and all those good things. But our job there at the bottom of that slide, if you wanted to boil it down to a couple sentences, is to obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. So that's quite a mouthful. Reasonable assurance would be approaching absolute assurance, but there would never be, no auditor is going to give you absolute assurance on a set of financial statements. There's reasons for that. Some things are easier to audit than others. For instance, you may have a bank account balance that's pretty straightforward, and then you may have, in the case of the town, asset retirement obligations that are an estimate. So there's more subjectivity to those types of things. So anyway, that's a overall kind of a synopsis of what we do at 40,000 feet. What we don't do. I was at a meeting yesterday, and somebody asked me, "Is everything okay?" Well, that's not our job to tell you that everything's okay. Our job is to tell you whether or not the financial statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So there may be things that come up during the audit that may be of interest to management and council and so on, and we would raise those either in the audit findings report or in the management letter. But those are a byproduct of the audit. So that's enough audit talk for you. I'm happy to talk about all those things more, but I think that gives you an overview again of what we're doing, hopefully. Sometimes there's a little bit of a mystery there of what we are doing and what we aren't doing. So I have summarized your financial statements to kind of make them a little bit easier to follow. So if you do follow along on the slides, you won't miss anything. So if we look at the statement of financial position, just as a summary, high level, there's where you're at the end of the year. And I'll show you more details right away. But financial assets, less liabilities, town has net debt of $8.8 million. And then non-financial assets are things like roads, machinery and equipment, sewer lines, those types of things, water, $39.6 million. So the total of the net debt and the non-financial assets is the town's accumulated surplus or net worth is $30.8 million. So just keep that kind of in the back of your head, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes, but we'll look at the details a little bit more on the next slides as we go through here. So financial assets, so that would be cash or things that are near to cash. You can see there, the account has actually had an overdraft at the end of the year, so the cash is actually in a negative position, which will be under liabilities. We'll see that in a minute. Receivables, I'll show you a little more details on the next page. And then the town has some land held for resale, land inventory. So those are the Heroes for Eternity's lots and the cottage lands. So hopefully, you'll be able to sell those lots in the upcoming not too distant future. But the key probably for most audits, or at least the town's audit here in this case, is the receivables. One key thing. And you can see on this slide, if we can go to the next slide, please. There we go. So total receivables were 6.6 million at the bottom of that slide. So starting at the top of the page, there's some local improvement taxes which were levied in 2023. So those none of those have been collected yet. So those are still on the books at the end of 2024. Other than that, there's government transfers, second line down. So these are grants that the town had outstanding at the end of the year. The key ones there are, let me get my notes there. The local government's fiscal framework allocation, $520,000, and some Canadian Community Building Fund money. So those are outstanding. I think some of that might have been received after the end of the year now. Other than that, standard types of stuff, taxes and grants in place of taxes, utilities, trade and other, you can see there was a little bit higher last year. There was some land sales funds included in there for 1.4 million, so those were paid during the year. And then GST. So the big thing here is the collection of these local improvement taxes, and if you do start collecting those are supposed to be paid out till over 2038, I think it was. So anyways, there's a small allowance there at the bottom of the page for anything that might not come to fruition, but in a nutshell, that's your receivables. So that's financial assets. So like I said, that was $7.6 million. So we're moving on, still on the statement of financial position now, looking at liabilities. like I mentioned, the town had, town was in an overdraft with its bank account at the end of the year of 529. Short-term debt, that's the lines of credit that the town has. There's a note in the financial statements with more, terms and conditions of that. Payables, a little bit higher than last year. Couple of reasons. Well, one main reason for that, there was the Shaw cable. There was a bill for doing them fiber optics over that way, $265,000. When I mean over that way, I can never keep them the names straight. Which one's South Common and which one's Heartland Station? So that's, you know what I mean. Anyways, as far as payables go, that's probably the main reason for it is the main reason for the increase over last year. But other than that, there's standard types of things included in the payables accounts. Our main concern in that area is going to be with cutoff, make sure there's an accurate cutoff made, and all the bills got into 2024 that belong to that year. And one of the other, just as a side note, one of the other larger payables is the policing bill from the province. So that was around $125,000 in both years. So,
Was what? Sorry, I just.
oh,
didn't-
sorry, policing, the RCMP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry, I was mumbling or looking. My wife says I mumble. I gotta be careful. So, don't tell her that you couldn't
I won't
understand.
tell
She's the one always saying what, so I don't know if it's me or her. But anyways, that's a side note. Deferred revenue. So, town had $2.3 million of deferred revenue at the end of the year. So deferred revenue is basically the grants that the town has received or they're receivable, and they have not been spent yet. Items included in there, there's a CFEP grant for $700,000, the local government fiscal framework, again, that allocation was in there, and same with the CCBF money, Canadian Community Building Fund. And there's a grant that's been in there for the Alberta Municipal Water Wastewater Program, $327,000. That was unspent money from a project many, many years ago that is still sitting in there waiting to be repurposed. Other than that, asset retirement obligations, second line from the bottom there, I don't know if you remember, but last year there was a new accounting standard. So it required municipalities or organizations that follow PSAP, Public Sector Accounting Standards, to recognize obligations for potential cleanup on retirement of various assets. So the town had recorded liability of $377,000 in 2023. That was for asbestos, potentially cleaning up asbestos. So, that's an estimate. It's an educated estimate, but you never know. There's a lot of factors involved there. How far out these buildings will last before you actually have to remediate anything and so on. I think the bigger purpose here is just to recognize that there is going to be a cost at some point, probably down the road. If it's exactly that number, that's probably a little bit of a shot in the dark. But, I know for sure when we built our office, we just punched a few holes in an old building's bricks and boom, it was $150,000 to take out a little bit of dust, right? So it doesn't take long, but that's what that's for. Town has long-term debt also, just rounding out the liabilities of $8.1 million. And last year, you'll probably know this, but just for everybody else's sake, there was a new loan for the fire truck purchase of the loan was $630,000. So anyways, most of that debt is with the province of Alberta and debentures, but that loan was with the financial institution. So total liabilities were $16,457,000 at the end of 2024. So just if we can go to the next slide, thank you. Debt limits. The town's debt limits are required to be disclosed in the financial statements in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. So that's all this is. You can see there the debt limits are $12.5 million, top of the page there, less the debt. So you have $519,000 of debt limit left at the end of 2024. You can see there's quite a big difference between last year to this year. So that debt limit, the top line, is revenue driven. So there was, the 2023 revenues were higher because of the land sale and the local improvement tax. So that's why that limit was a lot higher last year than this year. So you are getting pretty much to the top end of your debt limit there. 96% has been used up. So that's required to be disclosed in the statements. Next slide, please. We can just round out the statement of financial position. So you can see here, these are assets that are not in the bank account anywhere. They only would ever be there if you sold some of them. But capital assets, 39 million. So, you know, municipalities' largest asset is typically the capital assets. So I'll show you some details on that in a second. Town also had some inventories for consumption. That was primarily water meters. So some of those water meters got used this year, put into service, and became an expense. And so total non-financial assets were 39.6 million. And if we look at the next page, you'll see what the highlights were for capital asset purchases last year. I'm sure that none of this is too much of a surprise, but there was just over $2 million of assets this year, largest being the fire truck and some other pieces of equipment and so on. So from our standpoint, you know, sometimes clients just decide to record things in the asset accounts that aren't assets, so that's really what we're most concerned about in that area. So that is all I'll say about that. And so then, again, if we just go back to the next slide, we're back to the summary slide. You can see here, again, like I mentioned earlier, net debt was $8.8 million, and the net non-financial assets, $39.6 million, left you with an accumulated surplus of $30,864,000. So that's the town's net worth, so to speak, from an accounting standpoint. And a little more detail on the accumulated surplus on the next page. So the bottom of that page, you can see there's the $30,864,000. So again, when you think about net worth and you think about your personal finances, most of us have a lot of equity tied up in our house. So same here, most municipalities have a lot of equity tied up in those capital assets. So there's $30,993,000 equity tied up in the financial tangible capital assets. Then there's some reserves that have been set aside. That's that is money that's received from the county for capital activities, capital funding through the agreement with Sturgeon County. And then town actually has a negative unrestricted surplus, slight deficit there of 278, thousand at the end of the year. So, you know, all things being equal, that's the town's financial position has gone down significantly from last year when you look at the unrestricted surplus, going from
Sorry, Phil, is it okay if we interrupt you and ask questions? Well, can you explain what unrestricted surplus means?
Unrestricted surplus, so basically, let's say you had a year where the town brought in $100,000 more, for the sake of example, than it spent. So you have a surplus of 100, and then the council might say, well, 50 of that is for, I don't know, mower. So we put 50 aside into the restricted surplus. So you start off with that one pot of 100, put 50 over there in the restricted surplus for the mower, and the other is still sitting there. It hasn't been segregated for anything in particular. So that would be the unrestricted? Yes, yeah. So I always kind of simplistically think of my pants, 2 pockets, you know, I'm saving in this one, and this is my blow-it pocket, right? So that's the difference, kind of.
And so why is the difference between 23 and 24 so massive?
Well, you're going to see on the next page there was a deficit, so that has a lot to do with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that rounds out the statement of financial position. So if we're moving along, I'm now looking at the statement of operations on your financial statements if you were following along on those. But trust me, these are the same numbers. So they're just easier to read, hopefully. Total revenue, operating revenue for the year was $8.3 million at the bottom of the page there in the middle column. And we had a budget of 9.1. Couple things to note there. Probably the biggest difference was under sales and user charges. The town had budgeted $530,000 for land sales, and there was no land sales in that account, so that's why there is a difference there. And other than that, if you go down the list, there's some minor differences for the most part. Down at the bottom under other, there were some items in the budget that shouldn't have been in there, but they were also included in expenses, so it was really neutral. But You know, when you look down the list, so sales and user charges, just so everybody knows, the rest of that primarily is water, wastewater, sewer, garbage, those types of fees. I mean, there's some fire call-outs, those types of things. Rentals would be the arena, you know, the different places, the culture center, all that good stuff, right? So, yeah, I mean, the key difference there will be the land sales that didn't materialize. So if you're looking at the difference at the bottom, that was about $800,000, and the land sales were about 500,000 of that. So that's why there's a difference there. If you're looking at last year compared to this year, again, two things there. Sales and user charges, there was the land sale last year for roughly 2.4 million, and local improvement taxes of 4.5. So between those two, you're looking at $6 million, $7 million. So that's why last year's revenue is way higher than this year. So if we move on to expenses, sorry, that's a little bit smaller because the list is longer, but you know, if you look at the bottom, $12.5 million for actual, $8.7 million for the budget. So a few things to talk about here again. So starting at the top of the page, planning, zoning, development. So some of these costs at the top of the page here relate, well, 2 million roughly of that 2.5 million relates to work at down the road here for costs that are not assets of the town. So there was some work on the highway, reconfiguring that, and some other items. So those are recorded as expenses. So that's why that's over. I believe some of that was included in the capital budget. So there would have been some of that between the two budgets. Some or all of it. It's hard to tell in some cases. Administration, so that was a little bit over budget there. That was due to primarily to the interest on the line of credit. So the budget was 28,000. The actual was 185,000. So that's the difference between the 1.6 million and the 1.4.5 million. Water, wastewater, again, they're a little bit over budget. That was just like I mentioned earlier, the town had used some of the water meters from inventory. So that went into expenses. So those would have been budgeted in a previous budget when you bought them, right? And now they're just going into the expense when you use them. So it didn't actually involve cash. Other than that, common services was a little bit over budget. There was no budget for the interest, the loan lease interest on the asset that was leased last year. And other than that, fire, there was a little bit more as far as call-outs and supplies. And then other subdivision and land development, there's some costs to do with, again, those developments over to the south, I believe that is that direction, is south, I believe. Last year, again, that number is way higher than than this year because of last year, some of the land inventory that the town had was brought into expenses when it was sold. So, I mean, last year's over, but if you're wondering why that's lower, that would be the primary reason. So when we look at the bottom of this page, there's a couple of things just to, I can't see the bottom of this page on my computer. Okay, so there, if we're looking at the bottom, you'll see amortization of 1.7 million. The town had a budget of 1.5 thousand. So this is the amortization of the capital assets. So it doesn't involve cash, and you didn't budget for it. So we need to remove the amortization from the actual numbers to get a good comparison to what actually happened. So if you take that 1.7 million out of the 12,560,000, you're left with 10,800,000, and the budget was 8,800,000. So we're roughly $2 million over budget there, and it was mostly on the to do with the development over there. Yeah.
Do you know exactly what that 1.7 mil was?
Oh yeah, it's the amortization of all the assets the town has.
Okay, can you explain that? I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
an
no,
accountant,
so, you know, if, let's say you buy a grader, you know, management feels the grader's gonna last for 10 years, it costs $100,000. Every year there's a charge to expenses for $10,000. So 100 divided by 10.
Okay.
So that's what that is. So it's, you know, amortization is important. It's just that you don't have to dish out any money today, right? You would have dished out the money in your capital budget for these things, and this number is just an estimate of what it costs to use all those assets for the year, right? So it's a way of allocating, it's nothing new. It's just a way of allocating the cost of those assets to the term of the town is using them. So if you're wondering why I would take it out of there, it's like, because you don't have a budget number for it. So to compare that properly, you need to remove it. So, like I said, then the difference is about $2 million, and most of that has to do with the work over in the development there to the south here. So, so rounding out on the next slide, rounding out, summarizing things. If you look at revenues less expenses, the total was a deficit of $4.2 million. So back to your question, Councillor Harris, that's where that difference comes from. That was from operating. Then the town had some other revenues, minor amounts for capital grants that were used for capital projects, so $208,000. And that left an annual deficit of about 3.9, well, almost $4 million last year from an accounting standpoint. The part at the bottom, again, is just looking at, putting things back to basically cash basis. So the town, if you add back the amortization again, the town was still short about $2.5 million revenues less the expenses for the year. So overall, I think that's a summary of the statements. If you look through the statements, they haven't. First of all, there was no changes in accounting policies that affected the town. We've gone through in one way or another, most of the notes. There's nothing else in the financial statements that would, be new or interesting, I don't think. So as far as our audit findings report goes, just summarize a few things here. Again, we are required to report back to council under the auditing standards on various matters. So one of those is whether there were any significant control deficiencies. So we did not find any. What would that be? If controls were not operating in a manner that would prevent and detect or correct, significant misstatements on a timely basis, that would be what we'd be referring to there. As far as unusual accounting policies, so on, those types of things, nothing unusual necessarily in the town's accounts. Pretty standard things for municipalities. You made a few estimates there, like we've already talked about, amortization of the capital assets and asset retirement obligations. So estimates are just important because they do involve a bit more subjectivity. And the people that make the auditing rules feel that if management had an inkling to fudge the books, so to speak, or skew results, estimates are an area where they could do that more so, but these types of estimates would not be that prone to that type of problem. It'd be more with public companies where somebody's trying to manipulate share price and those types of things. Adjusted and unadjusted differences, we had only 7 adjustments during the audit, so I think the previous year there was over 50, so it's a nice improvement. And there was no material unadjusted differences that we are aware of after those got recorded. We didn't have any difficulties, significant or otherwise, in completing the audit. So the word significance is straight out of the audit rules, but we didn't have any difficulties at all. So again, thanks to everybody at the town here for their help. And we will be providing a management letter to management with some items that are, we feel should be considered, or at least look at that going forward. So we will do that in the next week or so here. So as a summary, just think it needs to be clear that the town does have a negative accumulated unrestricted, or the surplus is negative other than the tangible capital assets. So you've kind of you have used up pretty much all your debt limit. And the LOC, lines of credits, unless those limits have changed since the statements were made, were pretty much at the top of their limits. So, I don't mean to be too negative, but you're definitely standing closer to the cliff than you were a year ago, right? So there's going to be a need to bring in some cash and pay down some of this debt going forward. So again, not to be negative, just want to be clear, everybody knows where we're at. So That has basically what I had to say, unless I could try to entertain questions.
Great, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Hurst?
Thank you. I have a couple. First of all, is it unusual for a municipality to be in an overdraft situation at all, ever?
You mean as far as the surplus goes? Is that what you're referring to?
At the end of the year, you had said that we were in an overdraft situation.
Yeah, deficit. So yes, and in fact, there are rules in the Municipal Government Act that require that to be rectified, I believe, within the next operating budget. Don't quote me on that. It's either the next year or within 3 years. So yeah, I mean, it is unusual.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Ms. Jeffries, that was the 150,000 that you've budgeted for the surplus deficit, or for the deficit, was it not?
130.
130,000,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, I think the wording in the act is if you had a deficit, you would have to make a transfer from reserves. But in this case, that wouldn't have been quite enough. So then there would have to be something included in the next cycle's operating budget to make sure that gets rectified.
Okay, my other question is, when I was going through the big document.
Yeah,
I noticed that for the notes, under the notes for receivables, number 2,
okay.
you'd indicated that a local improvement tax for 4.5 million dollars, ALT 523. My question is, that bylaw, that local improvement tax bylaw, was different than ALT 623, which was $3.6 million, and that was a local improvement borrowing bylaw as well. Are you aware of what I'm talking about?
I'd have to see the bylaw.
Okay, because I looked at both, but I'm looking at, 6-23 is for, I'm looking at it right now, for Heartland Common, Heartland Station, local improvement project, and it was to the tune of $3.6 million. And then the one that you're saying, 5.23, was for 4.459 for the local improvement tax bylaw. Why would there be a difference between the two?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that bylaw and look at our file from last year. It could be that one was superseded, but I couldn't comment without looking at it.
But is that it's noted in here that we took out a short-term borrowing bylaw for 4.4.
Well, that's what that bylaw said.
Right. Yeah, I looked at that one. 523 was 4.4. 623, or pardon me, 523 was 4.4, and then there was 623, which is 3.6.
Yeah.
Perhaps Ms. Jeffries has an idea.
I'd have to look, but maybe, do you guys remember it all?
I'm sorry, I'd have to look at the bylaw.
But if they're for the same project,
I don't know. I'd have to look at the bylaw. I can do that tomorrow, but, I just don't remember off the top of my head.
oh, okay, I think that, I'm just like an explanation why there's two different figures. And
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
$1 million apart.
Can we get back to you on that? Because
Sure.
like I said, that's the one that I was aware of, and maybe when I see it, it will make sense, but right now, I just can't
Okay.
remember. That was
No,
quite a while
thank
ago.
you.
Any other questions?
We're going in camera after this?
We are. All right, so I think we need a motion to accept this part as information first.
I'll put forward the motion to accept the report as information.
Thank you. Any questions?
Can we not vote on this before or after we come out of the
Because
in-camera discussion?
I could be wrong, but I think we'll vote on the in-camera stuff separately. Does that sound right or not
Well,
right?
I don't, why would we accept this is information without knowing that about the things that we're discussing in camera.
This is what Chris wrote. I got cheat notes.
Thank you. Yep, so based on what Ms. Pino wrote for us as cheat notes, we would vote on the public side of things first, and then we'd have another motion after we come out of closed session for the closed session discussion.
Okay?
So you've already made the motion, correct?
Yes, for information.
I'd like a recorded vote, please.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? All right, can I get a motion to move us into closed session?
I move that we move into closed session.
Thank you. Yep, so everyone, we are gonna go into closed session, have a discussion, if I can get you to wait outside or in the lobby area here, and we'll call you back in when we come out.
one again too.
There's no more presentation?
Oh, we still got a council meeting to go through, the rest of council.
Yeah, but we don't use the TVs for that.
I don't wanna see it.
Thanks, Phil. Are we back? Okay. All right, so from the closed session, I need one motion to accept the audit as presented, or the audit findings as presented.
I'll move to accept the audit presentings as found, pardon me.
Recorded, please.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, and then we need another motion to accept the auditor's finding letter as information.
Again, recorded, please.
I thought that's what we just, sorry, then okay.
Financial statements need to be approved as presented.
Okay, then I misworded the first one, so we've already accepted the information, the letter, so now we're a motion to approve the financial statements.
I move that we approve the financial statements for 2024.
Thank you.
Recorded, please.
All in favor? Opposed? All right. $2024. Yes. Finance, 7.1, accounts payable as of April 17th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve accounts payable.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Harris?
First page 4 down for
We did that.
AMSC Insurance Services for $118,000. Can I just ask what that is? Because it's
Acting Mayor Yusish, members of council, that's the insurance that the town has on all of its buildings, all of its equipment, mobile equipment, et cetera.
Is it always, is it always that amount?
So if I may just add, so last year's amount was $114,263, so it's a difference of $4,262 from last year's.
Thank you.
Any others?
I'm the only one. I'll keep going.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 7 from the bottom, same page for Shaw Cable Systems for Advantage Voice. There are two checks, one for 28,366 and one for 28,632. And there are no different dates specified. Can we get an explanation?
Good evening, Acting Mayor and members of council. So as Phil just stated in his financial report in the 2024 financials, he stated the fiber optics it was actually $264,785. So that now we have to start making those payments. So we had to make an initial payment of just under 50,000. Or just over, sorry, with taxes included, $57,018.47. Thereafter, we have to make now monthly payments for the next 36 months on that fiber optics line. So that went from here down to the south and then up to that property line. After that, the developer was responsible for his connection passed.
Is that the payment per month, the $28,000 per month?
No, it will drop. So we had an option of paying it out in full. We chose to do the first initial payment of $25,000 each. They divided it over 2 accounts. It's the same line. I asked that question to Shaw or Rogers the other day. So they broke it over 2 accounts. So the initial payments on each account were $25,000 each. We're going to be responsible for another second payment of $25,000 and $20,000, and then so that would bring that down to $95,000. The remainder then we're responsible over the next 36 months to pay that full initial cost of $264,785. So they actually came back to us this week and asked, instead of paying another additional $45,000 out in the coming months, would we want to take that payment over the next 36 months as well? So we said yes. So we're going to have our monthly costs as well as that initial one over the next 36 months. If we come into extra cash anytime over the next 3 years, we are able to pay that down in either increments or one full lump sum payment without penalty.
Was this an unexpected?
I believe we were aware of it. I just didn't realize the payments were starting as of January 1st.
Are we recovering any of that?
No.
Okay.
And just for my clarification, there's two of them because like you said, there's two accounts, they split it across, correct?
Yeah, they split it over 2 accounts, so then I wondered if we had different lines coming in. They put it on 2 separate accounts, they said to help us. It didn't help us any because they sent the bills at the exact same time. So I don't know why they just didn't create the one account because it is just for one project. But that's how they've set it up on Shaw Rogers' end.
Okay. All right. Another one?
Thank you. Page 2 for under the RBC commercial visas. There's a reconcile posting error for $10,496.56. What's that?
Good evening, Acting Mayor, members of council. So that is an error actually on RBC's side. We have Avion commercial and Avion visas and commercial visas. So they took our commercial visa, put it on the Avion account, and put the Avions on the commercial. Unfortunately, they aren't able just to reverse that on their end. So we had to make that adjustment. We have received, I don't know how to, 5,000 of that back into the account, but then another visa payment came in. And so they took that balance as well, our credit balance on that visa, and took it off. In the end, it all washes out, but that's how we had to record it when we were paying this visa off, just because of the error on RBC's side. I don't want to say fought with them for numerous weeks on this, saying that this does not make it easy in our system to rectify it. But that's how we have to do it then to make our balances in our system to zero.
Okay.
I don't know if Mitchell or Monique want to add to that, if I didn't state something correctly to make it more easier for you to understand.
Acting Mayor Yushishin, members of council. The one thing that's also important to realize here is they are going to reimburse us for this posting error, but they've just asked us to balance the one line of visas to nil. So that's what this extra payment is. It's that $10,000 because it was the larger account which they made the error on their end. So they're writing us a check, and that seems to be the only way that they're able to reimburse us. But in doing so, we have to pay down the previous statement balance which we had paid correctly. So it's really just a balancing of accounts, and just the timing looks off. But one other thing that's worth noting is this isn't going to be an expense. This is a clearing account, and when the balance does come in, it will wash to zero. So this isn't an additional cost to the town.
My last question would be same page. For J.R. Payne and Associates for the Heartland Commons, there was $39.62. What are we doing with that period?
So again, I contacted Select Engineering on this to see if this was a valid invoice, and it is. So if you remember, I believe at the last council we had spoke about, or it's in the capital budget as well, the 2-inch overlay that has to be put on now because that road, it's a 2-year warranty. So to get it, make sure it's still under warranty, everything, they still have to do soil sampling, testing that road. So then when it's time to do that 2-inch overlay this year, it is ready and up to standards to go.
Are you referring just to the entrance road from?
Yeah, that
off the highway?
Heartland Drive. So when you come into Heartland Drive, you know how you do that 2-inch dip?
Yeah.
So that 2-inch overlay has to be put on that road. So J.R. Payne is just coming out, making sure the stability is still there, the soil sampling is there. So, so it's in the budget still for those to be done.
Can somebody explain I mean, I know that they're the two different projects, pardon me, the, station and the commons, right? The commons is not going forward anymore, as it stands right now, correct? Am I,
Yeah, well, until we get the Mayor Yusish, members of council, Councilor Harris, that won't go forward until we actually get money to put in the sewer water lines.
Right.
Down the south side. So, no, it's not in the books right now at all.
okay, and that's the 14 mil that we did not get.
Correct.
Okay, why are we still like earmarking things as commons expenses then?
That's how, sorry, J.R. Payne Select Engineering, when that initial invoice was created, back in, I think it was 2023, they keep the same subheading. So at that time, I don't know if it was, broken apart as Heartland Commons, Heartland Station, when that initial project started. So it is though for that Heartland Drive currently.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Tara.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor? Opposed? All right, cash flow statement.
I'll move to accept the cash flow statement for information.
Thank you. Are there any questions based on what you've seen in that statement? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. 2025 operating budget.
Acting Mayor Yusish, members of council, the purpose of this report is to respectfully request that council consider the proposed 2025 operating budget and the 2026 to 2029 operating budget to allow for day-to-day operations. After public meetings and council deliberations, the proposed 2025 operating budget and the proposed 2026-2029 operating budget is before council for consideration. The proposed 2025 operating budget includes an increase in revenues of 27.605%, an increase in expenditures minus repayment of debt of 8.558%. The municipal tax required to be levied amount to $3,454,076 of the proposed projects as detailed in the appendix and the attached Appendix B. The repayment of debt is 15.05% of total expenditures. Options available are that council approve the budget or that they propose changes.
All right, can I get a motion? Maureen?
I move that council adopt the 2025 to 2029 operating budget based upon expenditures of $10,967,748 plus debt repayment of $1,942,524 for total expenditures of $12,910,272 against revenues of $9,456,996, leaving $3,454,076 to be levied through taxation.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, I actually do just want to validate something in my head. Based on what you said last night, Ms. Jeffrey, although we could pass this tonight, we do have the ability to request adjustments at a later time.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Thank you. Just for time's sake, I will probably leave that for our next meeting then. Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
I asked for recorded.
Yep.
Did you have to?
Yep. You caught that, Tara? Okay, thank you. All right, passed. So that puts us at the 2025 capital budget.
Acting Mayor Yusish, members of council, the purpose of this report is to respectfully request that council considers the proposed 2025 to 2029 capital budget in the amount of $3,030,019 that consists of the proposed projects as detailed in the attached appendix. Administration, along with the different departments of the town, have diligently reviewed several proposed capital projects that will have significant impact to our community for many years to come, and is requesting council to review the proposed capital budget that is before you. Council could approve as presented and adopt it, or propose changes and request administration to rework the proposed capital budget.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 to 2029 capital budget.
Thank you, Councillor Sandal. Any questions? Councillor Harris didn't come on though.
Thank you, I just,
Oh.
sorry. I'm, just reading over the motion here, and, a couple of questions. It says that the, capital budget will be funded through utilization of the federal and provincial grant programs, municipal reserves, and operating funds. What's in our reserves right now, do we know? And how much of our reserve money is being put towards the capital budget?
The reserves is $204,109, and that is the funds, the reserves from the funding, the $50,000 that gets set aside, and under, as reported last night, $200,000 of that is used for Memorial Park, which is capital project that Sturgeon County will participate in. So $4,109 will be left.
Okay, thank you. And I just noticed here that as well, it says that operating funds will be used as well. I just am a little unclear as to why we're using operating funds for capital budget.
That happens every year, members of council. They're small amounts. Some of them, it's because they're too small to qualify for a program. Because under the grant programs, so the LGFF, the amount is $566,155. The minimum that you can apply for is $56,615. So if I can't create a project, then that's what happens. So one of the items that's coming out of operating is the half of the cemetery columbarium of $13,000.
Quick follow-up question on that. When you say it's got a total up to the 53,000 or whatever that number was, is that one single project or a group of projects you could lump together?
Okay, so the projects, so if it's equipment, I could lump 2 or 3 pieces of equipment together to make a project, but it all depends on how they fit in the criterias. So they have separate criterias that we're allowed to apply under. So they have their, it's a whole book that we have to follow, and that's how you match the money with, or the projects with the money available.
Okay, but even based on what you just said, it kind of sounds like it is a single project that would have to be at least 53,000.
56,000,
Or
yes.
56,000.
So say the vehicles, for instance, one of them is 20,000. Another one, the skid steer is 35. The truck plow is 13. So if
You
that
could lump all of
accumulates,
those
that's
into
one
one.
project, but it's 3 pieces of equipment.
Gotcha. All right, any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Recorded, please.
Opposed? We did that. All right, old business, accounts payable follow-up.
Acting Mayor Yusish, members of council, the purpose of this report is to respectfully request that council give consideration to the attached document. At the April 9th council meeting, administration was directed to provide follow-up information on some items of question in the accounts payable listing. Attached is the documentation for both of these items. And one of them was on the cleaning, and the other one was on the payments for the vac truck.
All right, can I get a motion? Councillor Barry?
I move that we accept this as information.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Harris?
This was the one from August of last year that was missed from August of last year?
Acting Mayor Musician, members of council, that is correct. And we explained it, but council wanted proof that our explanation was correct.
And that was related to the vac truck one, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just reading through the emails, and it says on, let's see, page 3, I think, says it, that the check was written on December 27th, 2024. That in your email that you provided. Right here.
That is correct.
But the check, the accounts payable that I was asking about was from March, I believe.
If I may just add in there, there's 2 invoices attached in this information. So one is dated July 29th and one is dated December 27th. So the check, I believe that was cut was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I may be mistaken, that check was for December's invoice. And then the other check was cut later on for the July invoice
It was
into the
the July one that was
2025.
missed.
Yeah,
And then got paid this last.
Yeah, I believe it was on the last payables. Unfortunately, I wasn't at that meeting. I don't.
yeah,
But,
it was,
okay.
the July one,
It was paid, yeah, just recently paid, right?
yeah.
Yes, so
So the email is referencing the December one that did get paid in December.
I believe, yeah, that's what that's referencing for, is that December, I think it was dated December 27th, 2024. That would be that one.
Okay.
And then the one that was just recently paid was the one for July 29th, 2024.
Very good, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? All right. New business, proclamation, day of mourning.
Oh, Jake.
Oh, Jay?
I'd like to put forward the motion that council proclaim April 28, 2025 as the day of mourning for those who have lost their lives due to workplace injuries and illnesses.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Jay. Sorry? Yeah, one comment, one question, or 2 total anyway.
One comment. As a previous representative of a prolific organization that was part of bringing up the day of mourning, it's especially important to know that on that date, whether we pass it or not, I'm hoping that we pass it, that everyone pause and honor those who lost their lives due to workplace injuries and illnesses. It's something that's pretty grave to me because I've lost a few friends through this in the workplace situations. And we can always provide safety for those to prevent workplace illnesses and injuries as best as we can. But the numbers are high. And I think it's important that we push this through because it honors those who lost their lives and have had significant injuries in the workplace, and also gets us thinking about preventative measures to prevent those kinds of situations from happening. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, bylaw ALT 4-25.
Acting Mayor Musician, members of council. Purpose of this report is to respectfully request the council give consideration to third reading of bylaw ALT 4-25, a bylaw to rescind bylaws. Bylaw ALT 1-24 Local Improvement Tax Bylaw and Bylaw ALT 2-25 Local Improvement Borrowing Bylaw were both established for the cottage lands when it was the intention to develop the land. At the regular meeting of council held on March 26, 2025, council moved to sell this land. Both first and second readings were held at the April 9th, 2025 regular meeting of council. As a result of this decision, these bylaws are no longer required. The Municipal Government Act bylaws can only be rescinded in the same way as they are passed by motion of council. Options available. Option 1, the council give third reading to bylaw ALT 4-25 rescinding cottage lands bylaw. 2, the council advises administration how it would like to proceed.
Councillor Berry?
I'd like to move that council give third reading to bylaw ALT 4-25, rescind cottage land bylaws.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Recorded, please.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, ALT 5-25, 2025 tax rate bylaw.
Acting Mayor Yusish, members of council, as the 2025 operating and capital budgets have now been adopted by council, administration respectfully requests that council consider passing the 2025 tax bylaw ALT 525. The tax rate bylaw includes all the required requisitions collected by the municipality in addition to our municipal taxes. The cost of living in Alberta as of December 31st, 2024 was 3.75. The operating budget expenses overall increased by 18.502. The debt requirements by 15.05. Revenue increases are 27.605. The residential rate for 3 options are provided, 1%, 1.5%, or 1.9%. And it is shown residential the average municipal tax for in 2024 was 4%. The non-residential option 1 is 1%, option 2 is 1.5%, option 3 is 1.9%. The non-residential was 4% last year. The information below represents a snapshot of the 2025 tax increases around Alberta, and they were read out last night. The only change on that one is Edmonton went from 6.1 to 5.7. An average residence in Gibbon in 2025 is assessed at $319,999, which is an increase of $17,396 from last year. The non-residential average assessment for 2025 has increased by $68,879 to $725,983. The Town of Gibbon's 2025 operating budget requires a net municipal tax of $3,454,076. The Province of Alberta requires a school requisition of $1,143,296. Homeland Housing requires a senior housing requisition of $35,076.95. The Province of Alberta requires a designated industrial property requisition for DI properties of $345.54. The Municipal Government Act stipulates that the 2025 tax notice must be mailed before May 31st, 2025, and the country could be facing a mail strike anytime after May 22nd. Administration has provided to Council three options for consideration for a tax rate increase. Option 1, 1% would create a surplus of $334,400.40. Option 2, tax rate increase of 1.5%, would create a surplus of $353,155.24. And option 3, tax rate increase of, it's 1.9, pardon me, it's not 2, with a surplus of $368,159.10. Council administration respectfully requests that Council considers provide administration with the option that it would like to proceed with, and then provide first reading for the bylaw. So 2 motions are required if Council so wishes.
All right, thank you. can I get a motion for the first motion needing which option council wants to discuss?
I'd like to move that council proceed with option number 2, where the rate increase is 1.5% with a surplus of $353,155.24.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Okay, I do. My first question, actually, Ms. Jeffries, I just read this again and something didn't make sense. If you look right below your snapshot of the other municipalities, municipal tax rates or tax increases, an average residence in Gibbons in 2025 is assessed at $319,999, an increase of $17,396 from last year. Oh, my apologies. I just misread it. But now that I've read it out loud, it makes sense to me. My apologies. Okay, the only other comment I would like to make, and by all means, open for discussion and or just shoot me down. I'd like us to consider option number 1 with the lowest possible tax rate increase as possible. Again, hearing from the residents last night as well as a week ago, and also knowing that we have increased their utility bills by a decent amount outside of our control. Unfortunately, it was something that we were required to do, basically. But because there's already that increase plus the assessment increase that we have zero control over, I'd like to consider the fact that taking away a surplus of $20,000 isn't really going to damage us that hard. Anybody comment?
Sorry, if you want to change it like that, you're going to need,
A friendly amendment, I totally agree. I'm just
Okay.
making the comment that my opinion is I'd like us to consider the friendly amendment. If Councillor Barry, you'd be,
No, at this point, I'm not willing to change the motion. So
Okay.
the vote will be on
on the 1.5. Councillor Milante, you had comment or question?
Yeah, just from having our public meetings, I agree with option 1 on my end as well.
Okay. All right, but because we're not doing, Councillor Barry has chose not to do a friendly amendment, we're going to vote on the first option. So can I get, oh no, we've already got the motion. Any other questions, comments?
Recorded, please.
Recorded, okay. All right, all in favor of choosing option 1 for the tax rate? Sorry, my brain is there apparently. The first one put forward, which was option 2 of a 1.5% increase. All in favor? All opposed? All right. All right, so now we do need another option or another motion put forward.
I'll make the motion, we proceed with option 1, the tax increase of 1%.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, all in favor? Recorded? Opposed? All right. So now I need a motion to give bylaw ALT 5-25, 2025 tax rate bylaw first reading. Councillor Milante? Oh, sorry.
Just to, Acting Mayor Sisson, members of council, just so that you know, you're giving it first reading, but it will be amended because it was,
We went to 1.0 as opposed
that's
to
right. So
0.45.
it will be different the next time it comes before you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Milante?
Thank you.
We can, because it's only the first reading.
Okay, I'll put forward the motion that council give first reading to bylaw ALT 525-2025 tax rate bylaw.
Quick question, Ms. Jeffrey, if we already know it's gonna change, do we make part of the motion as amended?
Yes, you can.
Okay, and so I'll just repeat that. That council give first reading to bylaw ALT 5-25-2025 tax rate bylaw as amended.
So again, correct me if I'm wrong, that's just now making the assumption that even though we know what we have in front of us isn't 100% accurate, that change will be made based on what was discussed.
That is correct, and that's how bylaws work. Between the first and second, you have the opportunity to amend.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, any questions on the bylaw? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, staff reports, administration.
Acting Mayor Shishin, members of council, our summer students have now been hired and will be starting mid-May. We have 2 returning and 1 new this year in my department. Upcoming events is Emergency Preparedness on May 6th, our Mental Health Week Lunch and Learn May 4th, the seniors is May 8th, and the youth event is also on May 8th. And just a reminder to see the newsletter, there's lots coming up in May, which is very exciting. Thank you.
Acting Mayor Sisson, members of council, I would like, if permitted, I would like to answer a couple of the questions that came up at the open house last night for clarification, as I promised that I would. So under the firefighting, there was a question as to why there was a 402,000 amount in a transfer to capital. That was for the fire truck. That was the capital. So what happens is it's recorded as operating, and then at the end of the year, it is transferred into capital, so it doesn't affect the operating budget. Planning and development, there was some questions about the staffing component and why the wage component had increased. That's because with the loss of the economic development person that was doing it, there's definitely one person in the planning department, but the economic development was split between 3 others. So that comprises of 1 full-time and 3 part-time. So it's the reallocation of wages from one department to the other to realize where the work is actually being done. Corporate Services has been working on the 2025 operating budget and capital budgets, cash flow statement, and tax enforcement. We have some good news in one of the tax enforcement. It will be realized by the end of this month.
Good evening, Acting Mayor Sisson, members of council, public works, water meter changeouts as appointments are made and as time permits. Our seasonal equipment changeovers as time permits. Branch and grass recycling is opening on May 5th. The RV dumping station will be open on May 5th. For the time being, no water will be available until weather permits and warms up. We're expecting around the 16th of May, weather dependent, and pothole repairs are ongoing.
If I can interrupt with 2 questions. First one, water meter changeouts. We've been doing those since I started on council. How's that going? Are we making progress?
Acting Mayor Sisson, members of council. So on the water meter changeouts, we started with just under 1,000 meters roughly for changeout. It's all scheduling with residents and time permits and everyone's schedule. So we're kind of canvassing from the north end of town to the south end, going through all the areas. It takes a lot of time, the preparation work, putting up signs, notices, handing out tags, scheduling appointments as they're being called in and made. Some appointments we do make right at the door as we're handing out tags. Doing second runs through neighborhoods before moving on and so forth to further neighborhoods, as well as completing all our other duties all throughout town as well. We are a pretty limited staff, so it takes quite a bit of time to run through as different seasons go through town there.
Do you know roughly how many we have left?
Off the top of my head, 40-ish% left, somewhere in that neighborhood, 40 to 50, to be conservative.
Cool, thank you. Second question, I've had a couple of inquiries of me. Do we know when we're doing street cleaning?
Street cleaning, the street sweeper is part of our seasonal changeover equipment. It needs some repairs coming out of the season in winter storage, so we're just about complete that. So hopefully just starting up on that kind of in the next following weeks here.
Awesome, thank you.
Good.
Acting Mayor Sisson, members of council for,
Oh, sorry, Jay.
That's a running group that we've had in public meetings. I'm a little bit shorter than most, but I have a strong voice. I just wanted to ask you if that Voyant alert that we normally use, Is that still active? And when I mean by active, like any of the construction work, revitalization pieces that are happening, will that be happening in the Voyant Alert?
Acting Mayor Sessions, member of the council, Councilor Malante. Yes, the Voyant Alert is still active as projects get going ahead, and we're scheduling areas for street sweeping, maintenance, planned projects or projects that come up out of the blue. We will be putting out Voyant Alerts and having that notification going out.
Thank you. And where can our residents who don't have the Voyant Alert app get it if they need it? And is it only by phone or can it be by computer? Let me know.
Acting Mayor Shishin, members of council. So you can go onto our website and there's a way you can get the code and sign up that way, or you can call into the town office or the GFRC as well, and they can help you get it set up too. For example, if a senior does need some assistance, because it can be activated through a landline even, so for people that don't have a cell phone or other options, some of our other staff can help go through those processes. So if you're not that tech savvy or don't have access to internet, just give our offices a call and we can help set up that process with them. It would just take a few minutes on the phone because they just need a little bit of information, as an example, the phone number and what notifications they want to receive, because there is options as if you only want emergencies, or for example, someone that wants everything, so that would include events and things like that.
The reason why I want to bring it up is it came back in some public discussions about communication on things that are happening around the town, whether sidewalks are being fixed, roads are being resurfaced. I think just making sure that our citizens are aware of some of these communication technologies that we have would be beneficial.
One more comment, if you don't mind me adding. At our emergency preparedness event, we will have a table set up for Voyant Alert as well. So if you come on down to that event and you want to get more information or help get signed up, we will have a staff member hosting a table there.
I'll check for Councillor Malante's hand. No, okay, we're good. For planning and development, Susan is on vacation. 16 development permits have been issued for a total value of over $3 million, including 1 duplex, 1 manufactured home, and 5 new single-family dwellings. She attended the public hearing for the land use. And what else should she do? The Inside Gibbons magazine was sent to the publisher for May distribution, and the business breakfast tomorrow. Under fire department, there's 55 county calls and 56 town. So we're still averaging about 30 a month. And for me, met with the Sturgeon Public Schools. We had a CAO briefing. AB Muni, Bill 50 review with the CAOs, and really that's about it. Projects, no change over in Heartland Station, so.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to accept those as information?
I'll move to accept them as information.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Committee reports. Councillor Sandal, why don't we start with you?
Okay, April 9th, I attended Life in the Heartland in Fort Saskatchewan. April 11th, I went to the Sherwood Park Trade Fair. April 14th, the CAO budget briefing. April 15th, the public budget meeting. April 16th, the community future meetings in Westlock, and on the same evening, land use bylaw meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Kozak?
April 9th, Life in the Heartland. April 11th, the Guthrie School Pancake Breakfast, where they served pancakes to 1,000 kids, which was absolutely amazing, and I'll never eat pancakes again. April 11th was the Sherwood Park Chamber of Commerce. The 15th, the land use bylaw. April 16th, the Minister of Municipal Affairs Bill 50 webinar.
Councillor Harris?
Just the 2 budget, no wait, we had the land use bylaw.
Land use bylaws.
Yes, 2 budget public open houses and the land use bylaw. Public open house as well, please.
Thank you. Councillor Malante?
April 9th, attended the Life in the Heartland info session. April 14th, CAO briefing session. April 15th, public budget meeting. April 16th, the Bill 50 Municipal Affairs Town Hall with the Municipal Affairs Minister. And then April 17th, attended the public hearing land use bylaw. And April 22nd, the public budget meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Barry?
On April 14th, I attended the CAO briefing. April 15th, the public budget meeting. April 16th, the town hall with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. April 17th, the public meeting regarding the land use bylaw. April 22nd, the second public budget meeting. And that's it.
Thank you. Before I do mine, I realized we didn't send you any of these via email this week, did we? Do you want us to follow up with that
Yes, please.
tomorrow? That would be
Yes,
great.
please.
Okay. So council, if you can send those in tomorrow. Myself, April 9th, I also attended Life in the Heartland in Fort Saskatchewan. April 10th, I attended a meeting out at Rose Ridge. Quick update there, if you recall, 5 meetings ago, Susan came out and presented just a presentation regarding a proposal that Rose Ridge has been working on. The board of Rose Ridge gave her the approval to start moving forward on phase 2. At this point, it's still no money's going to be discussed a lot, other than potentials moving forward, but it'll be including some public information, coming back to council and doing more presentation, giving us all the information that we need, so that at the end of the day, when they reach stage 3 or phase 3, each individual municipality's council will have the ability to vote in favor or against of joining that project. April 14th, attended the CAO briefing. On the 15th, the first public budget meeting. On the 16th, also attended the Bill 50 Municipal Affairs webinar. On the 17th, the public land use bylaw. And on the 22nd, the second public budget meeting. That's it. I never remember. We do we need a motion for info.
I'll make a motion to accept as information.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Lastly, I'll need a motion for the correspondence from the Minister of Municipal Affairs informing us, and unfortunately my iPad has died, so thank you, that we have been approved for the legislative compliance check. They haven't started it yet, but, we're starting at June 12th?
They will be here June 12th from 9 to 3.
Sorry,
They will be here on June
12th.
June 12th from 9 to 3.
Awesome,
She contacted with me that info today.
awesome, thank you. Councilor Malonte?
Do you have a question, or you just make?
It's a question.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
If you can maybe elaborate a little bit more information for our present guests so that they understand what it is.
So, I apologize, I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but we had requested the municipal audit. Then we had the meeting in chambers with the minister where he informed us of the fairly extravagant cost potential because we were requesting the municipal audit as opposed to being provided a municipal audit, and suggested the potential of this legislative compliance check, which would basically have somebody from the minister's office or a group of people from the minister's office, and by all means, if I'm remembering this wrong, please somebody correct me, but they will come out, review our bylaws, review our processes and our practices, most likely review some of our meetings online, and just ensure that we are following all the rules that the MGA requires us to follow. Provide us with any suggestions on anything that we're maybe not doing quite accurately or we're outright missing. And at the end of this, he made it incredibly clear to us that if they find enough wrong, they will require us to go through a municipal audit. But at that point, because inspection, sorry, thank you. But he also said at that point, because it was them mandating it, while there might be a cost to us, it would be nowhere near what it was if they were doing it because we requested it. So we may still end up doing a municipal inspection, but we're starting with this legislative compliance check first, as quite frankly, a free option, so that we can see where it is that we're at and make some determinations off of that. Also, if I recall correctly, the municipal inspection could take 12 to 18 months versus a legislative compliance check. I don't know if he gave us a timeline, but he said it would be significantly shorter. Councilor Malonte?
Thank you for the clarification, just because I was the one that put forward the motion for the original municipal inspection. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any questions on that? Did we get a motion for approval for information?
No, we have not yet.
Okay, can I get a motion? Councilor Berry? Thank you. All in favor? All right, and with that, can I get a motion to move us into close? Actually, let's take a 5-minute recess. Yeah. We're good? Okay, so we are out of recess. Can I get a motion to go into closed?
I'll make a motion to move to closed session.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Give Tara a chance to do that. All right, can I get, oh, right, we gotta ask people to come back in. Are they coming? Good. I'm hoping they didn't stay.
I'll move the bylaw alt 1-25 passed for information.
Thank you. Receive for information.
Sorry, received.
It's late. All right, all in favor? Approved.
That's it, right?
We're closed, or adjourned, whatever that word is.